Today I'm going to talk about the voice actor strike, all on today's Stuff That Sucks. Now, I originally planned to do this really elaborate, long Stuff That Sucks. Well, actually, this one's still going to be pretty long. But rather than kind of read other sites and kind of just summarize what they're saying, I figured I would just take a famous voice actor's word for it, Steve Blum. Steve Blum has been in hundreds of projects. I mean, he was Wolverine and Wolverine and the X-Men. He's done a ton of stuff. And he recorded this monologue, he released it online, and it kind of sums up what they're asking for. Now, forewarning, I am in favor of the voice actors strike. I do believe that they are entitled to certain things. That said, I agree with about 90% of what Steve Blum says in this monologue. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play the monologue, and as it goes on, I'm going to kind of summarize it, tell you whether I agree or disagree with it. I'm even going to do some counter arguments for people who are, against the strike, for the strike, if you're extreme left, if you're extreme right, whatever. One thing I really don't want to get into though in this video is politics. So yes, unions are complicated, they're powerful, they are necessary. But each state has different unions, and each unions have a different amount of power. California unions, 3 top unions in California: SAG, teachers, prison guards. Super powerful unions. Now in your state, unions may not do much, they may do a lot, it all depends on state to state. But anyway, let's jump right into this and see what Steve Blum has to say.
Hi, my name is Steve Blum. I'm a voice actor. I don't want to waste your time going over my resume. You can look that up if you're interested. I'm sorry I couldn't do a live interview, but I'm in studio today and traveling for the next 4 days. I felt the need to at least make a statement in the wake of what now seems to be a complete breakdown in our interactive agreement negotiations. I'm a working union voice actor with hundreds of credits in this industry. I feel it's my responsibility to say something at this point. I've been doing this for almost 30 years, and until recently I've never spoken out publicly on these kinds of issues. I feel that the truth needs to be heard before the picket lines begin. Now, before I go through a brief summary of what we're asking for, I'd like to mention that my experience of developers, producers, and other creatives in the gaming industry has been based on trust, transparency, and respect. I love the people who create these things, and I'd do anything I could to help improve their working situations if possible. This is not us against them. I consider these people my friends, some of them family. This is about doing the right thing.
That's actually a really important statement that Steve made. It's not about us versus them, because right now what this is causing in a lot of controversy is like, well, why do the voice actors get preferential treatment and, all the other people, the coders, the artists, the engineers, get shafted? Why don't they get, residuals or back pay off the game if it does well? So he's trying to make that clear. That's not about us versus them. Make no mistake though, SAG is only looking out for SAG. And it's not a bad thing, right? I mean, they're the union people, they pay their union dues, they're looking out for their own people. To be really clear, don't be fooled into thinking that this is going to improve the lives of everyone in the gaming industry, because it's not. It's only going to improve the lives of the voice actors. Again, which is fine, but there's been some speculation and some facts that have been thrown out there that people have said, well, if this is successful, then the artists and coders and engineers can get a union and then everyone can have better work environments. This is something I don't believe it's true. I don't believe that if the voice actors agreements are successful, then, John Smith artist and Steve Kenny engineer and coder are going to be able to get their own unions and get better work environments. That's just my personal opinion. But it's just very important. They're only looking out for SAG. They're only looking out for voice actors. This is not going to improve the lives of coders, QA, anyone else in the game industry.
This is about doing the right thing for everyone who works these contracts, not just the privileged few who were able to make their own deals. I personally have been at this long enough that I'm already able to enjoy some of the things we're asking for as a community.
So that's really accurate. This is true. If you're higher on the pay grade, if you're a well-known voice actor, you're going to be able to get away with more things. You're going to be able to get basic amenities that other people can't. Joe Schmo voice actor isn't going to have the same amount of pull as Steve Blum. So clearly he's able to have some of these things now, but he wants them for all voice actors.
I'm speaking out because, as you might know, the Interactive Media Agreement was first negotiated by SAG and AFTRA in the mid-1990s, and this same agreement is still the template we use today, despite radical changes in what we're required to do on set and in the recording studio.
100% true. When it was negotiated in the 90s, let's be honest here, the film industry didn't take the video game industry seriously. Hell, a lot of people didn't. They looked at it as like a toy, as like a kid's thing, you know what I mean? Like, oh, it's just video games, you know, whatever. So that's very true. They never really treated it with a lot of respect. A lot of actors that work in games, mocap actors, voice actors, got shafted in the agreement because, well, it just wasn't important enough at the time to SAG. But it's rapidly approaching that point where it's going to rival the film industry in terms of revenue fairly soon. It's not yet. People are saying in the next 5-6 years it might. Hasn't rivaled it yet, but it's getting pretty damn close.
This industry has changed dramatically over the last 20 years, and so have the stakes for all concerned. So let me quickly outline what we're asking for. Let me start with vocal stress. This is the thing most important to me personally, because it's clearly a health and safety issue. Currently, by contract, we are required to scream or vocally project at dangerous levels for up to 4 hours at a time. This isn't even regulated in non-union games. Since most games have at the very least a fighting component, it's common and mandatory that we place ourselves in potentially damaging vocally stressful situations. I personally don't do vocally stressful work for more than 2 hours at a time, because at this point in my career I can demand that. I had to, or my career would have been over years ago.
So vocal stress is a real thing. There have been horror stories of voice actors losing their voice for months at a time. There have been reports of people getting vocal surgery to, help their vocal cords out. And it's bad. It's not as bad as some say. I mean, obviously it's a small percentage of this that happens to people, but it happens. And it is important to know that it can happen, and it does happen, and stuff should be put in place to stop that from happening. It's just another thing they can add on to the list when they're doing negotiations with their businesses and their union representatives.
SAG-AFTRA has had extensive meetings with throat surgeons, therapists, even OSHA to clearly define the risks of vocal stress. I've personally lost my voice for over a week on several occasions, passed out from screaming, even thrown up and bled from the throat. And I'm one of the lucky ones who thus far have not sustained permanent damage. There are hundreds of actors who are not able to shut a session down if they're in trouble, and they're in real danger of permanently losing use of their instrument. I know many people who have required surgery and been put out of work for months. Now, all we're asking for is to limit vocally stressful situations to 2 hours at no reduction in pay. It's reasonable, it's fair, and it's been proven to be medically necessary.
I think that's a completely fair request, personally. But on the other side, though, when the union representatives meet with these businesses to talk terms, we don't know. It's all behind closed doors. We don't know exactly what they're asking for. We know what they're telling people like Steve and people who are part of their union, like, oh, we're gonna ask for A, B, and C, and D. But they could get in there and say, we want A, B, C, and D, and then E through Z. So we're not really sure what happens behind closed doors. That, personally to me, is a reasonable request. 2 hours at full pay for high stress situations, reasonable. What we don't know, unfortunately, is if the union reps went inside and say, we want this and we want these 12 other things, and if you say no to any of them, we're just gonna say no to you. So it's sad that we don't know exactly 100% what they're asking for. We only know what the union representatives tell their union members. And it could be a lot. They could be asking for a lot more and we don't know about it. So just try to keep that in mind. But I agree with Steve on this one. 2 hours, I think, is completely fair for high stressful screaming, shouting. Hell, have you ever been to a concert? I've lost my voice just screaming in a nightclub or a concert before. And these guys have to do it for 2 hours? 4 hours? 4 hours would destroy me. I mean, that sucks. And it is their tool, so keep in mind, that's how they make their money. If they lose that, they're gonna have to do something else. And that really sucks.
Another issue is the lack of stunt coordinators on set during performance capture shoots. It's unsafe, period. They're required by contract in film, TV, and many other forms of media, yet somehow our part of the industry has been overlooked. People are getting hurt. This should be a no-brainer, yet they won't even consider it as part of the negotiations. And having a real stunt coordinator there actually improves the movement of the game. The stunts are better, actors learn how to use and wield the weapons correctly, It actually helps it to be a more realistic, immersive experience.
That I'm not so sure about, only because I've been to mocap sessions before as a journalist. I have friends who work in the industry as mocap artists, and a lot of the times there are stunt people on set or stunt coordinators on set working with the actors or in the suit themselves doing the stunts. Occasionally, like I said, every studio is going to be different. They do offer, hey, Mr. Actor, do you want to do the stunt? Do you want to bring the stunt coordinator? Do you want him to show you how to do it? So I don't know how true that is. I think they have them on a lot of high actiony games, but a lot of them I guess don't, according to Steve. I don't know, I can't attest to this. I've been on quite a lot of mocap sets. There's always been a stunt coordinator there. So if there is no stunt coordinator there, it's probably because people don't have the budget for it, or they're trying to save money, or it's a smaller game, or they're paying up the ass in the mocap studio because that shit is really expensive. So I said I agree with him though. I mean, it's good to have a stunt coordinator on set. I've always seen one on set. If there isn't one, that's probably a problem. So that probably should be at the forefront of their negotiations. Make sure to have a stunt coordinator on set. Perfectly reasonable demand. Again, safety makes sense. I'm 100% agreement. Not a lot to ask for.
The third point is transparency. You wouldn't work on a TV show, commercial, or film without knowing what the project is, what the part you're playing is, and how it fits into the story. Yet, we're asked to do that over and over again in interactive media. We'd also like to know roughly how many sessions we should expect to book on the job. Will there be offensive content? Will the sessions be vocally stressful? Knowing these things in advance actually helps the project by allowing us to prepare properly and to give our agents something realistic to negotiate with. And any claims of proprietary information leaking by giving us this most basic of information is simply moot because we already signed legal non-disclosure agreements.
Yeah, it's letting them know what it is, not letting them know what it is because you have this fear of the information leaking or something. I mean, it happens. Information leaks all the time. Embargoes are broken, NDAs are broken. Shit happens. But he's absolutely right. I mean, if you book a job, I would damn well want to know what I'm doing. I'm not just going to apply to a job blind. Well, actually, that's a lie. I have applied to a lot of jobs blind because I was so desperate for work at one point. But you want to know what you're working on. It's simple. Not to mention it costs the studio nothing to let them know. The knowing how many sessions to book, I mean, depends. I've worked in animation. I've worked with voice actors before. I've been in the booth with voice actors before, not voice acting, but behind the sound panel thing. And sometimes sessions can be done in an hour. Sometimes sessions take 8 hours in 2 4-hour blocks. It all depends. So I can kind of see how if I was a producer on a project or a video game, it would be hard for me to tell someone, well, here's how many sessions I think it will take, but I don't know if they say that many, and then if they don't, I don't know if there's a rule that if they say it's going to take 5 sessions and they only do 3, if they can sue or get in trouble or have to pay the 2 other sessions. I'm not sure how that works, but I can understand. I mean, Skyrim had so much dialogue. I mean, how many sessions do you think you can book there, So, I mean, I agree with them. It doesn't cost the studio anything. I do believe that studios say, well, we're not going to tell you because you don't want information leaking. Obviously, high-end games are going to be really hot for websites and stuff, for clickbait and stuff like that. So you can find any information like that, you're going to get hits. They don't want information leaking. That's fine. This is something that costs nothing to the business itself. Just letting the actors know, hey, it'll probably be 3 to 5 sessions. It's a movie. You're playing an alien who lands on a planet. Here's the VO script. Again, they probably don't want to send the scripts out because they're scared they might get, stolen or hacked, whatever, like the big Sony hacks that have happened lately. So, but I completely understand. Another reasonable and free request.
The fourth is compensation. Now, I've worked on about 400 video games in my career. In fact, I hold the Guinness World Record for working on more games than anyone. The reason I have to work on that many is because there is no secondary compensation in our contract. I've worked on games that have grossed in the billions, yet never received an extra dime on the back end.
So now we get to the really controversial part of these negotiations. And I say controversial because what's ended up happening, and he even said so at the beginning, it's becoming an us versus them type of thing. Why do the voice actors get benefits and back pay and residuals and bonuses if the game sells well, when artists, coders, and engineers get nothing? Now, there are two sides to this argument. The first argument is, well, the artists, coders, and engineers have full-time jobs that will keep them working for 3 to 4 years, while the voice actor may only book 2 sessions for the game and scales around $800 for a 4-hour session, just so $1,600. So that's one counter argument, is that they work a lot less, they need to make more because then they have to keep working other jobs, and these other people have secure situations. Now, the other side to this argument is that these people, artists, coders, and engineers, are working 10, 12-hour days, 6 days a week during crunch time. Some of them are freelancers, or my personal favorite, at-will employees, which means they can basically be laid off at any given time. They have no security, no protection, no benefits. They don't get put on benefits. They don't have healthcare because they're freelancers, at-will employees. So basically, they do their job and they're done. So it's very similar to the way voice actors are complaining about the same exact stuff. I don't really think it's jealousy. I don't think it's, a lot of people saying, well, it's people are just jealous of their success because they're more successful than they are. I don't think it's jealousy. I think it's, they just want protection too. They want to have a union. They want to have rights. They don't want to have to work 12-hour days, 6 days a week during crunch time, which a lot of them do. If any of you guys work in the industry, you know what crunch time is. Some of you may work 10, some of you may work 12, 6 days. Some people work 10, 7 days because stuff needs to get done, but there's absolutely no protection for them. SAG is a very powerful union, and the voice actors are lucky to have such a strong union behind them backing them. But the artists, coders, and engineers have no union. They have no protection. And a lot of them can't afford to go on strike for months at a time because, let's face it, the millennial generation is a paycheck to paycheck generation. It just is.
I've been told countless times that there's not enough in the budget to justify paying me more than scale, which is currently $825.50, while I'm standing next to an on-camera celebrity, quote unquote, whose paycheck for the same amount of work that day is in the tens of thousands of dollars.
This is the one key point I think that shouldn't have been said. This is what I like to call the bigger cookie mentality. So he got a bigger cookie than me. I want a cookie as big as him, or give me another cookie. And it sucks. It sucks so bad because obviously Kevin Spacey is going to have a higher worth than Steve Blum. Steve Blum's going to have a higher worth than Joe Schmo artist on the project. And so it just kind of leads into this very dark place where everyone's just snowballing into this, well, he got this, and he got this, and I want this, and I want that, and this isn't fair, and that's not fair. And it gets really dark really fast. I'm all for safer work environments, higher pay for people, and unions are a great thing. This is the one thing I disagree with Steve about. You shouldn't be comparing yourself to Kevin Spacey, who's next to you, because clearly Kevin Spacey is going to have more monetary value. Like I said, I think it's stupid too. I think everyone should be paid equally, but it's just how it works. Just how it's going to work, unfortunately, in the industry. This person's going to be a bigger celebrity than you. He's going to get more money, and that's the sad reality of it.
And I've often been asked to do their vocally stressful work as a voice match, again at scale, because they don't have the skills or simply refuse to do it.
That really sucks, and that happens all the time. All the time.
There is budget when they want what they want.
So that's a great, you can put that into quote, put it on Facebook, because that's a great quote. Yes, film, television, video games will have the budget when they really want something. Otherwise, they're going to go cheap on you. But hey, isn't that capitalism at its core, to save money, to make money, right? I don't agree with it, but that's a sad, honest-to-God reality.
So, we decided to start small and make our request a win-win. After extensive research, we determined that most games turn a profit at 2 million sales. We're asking for a reasonable secondary compensation for every 2 million copies or downloads sold, or 2 million unique subscribers to online-only games with a cap at 8 million units, or subscribers. Now that shakes out potentially to 4 bonus payments total for the most successful games, one each at 2 million, 4 million, 6 million, and 8 million copies. Total possible outlay for a successful release? $3,300, a fraction of what they pay most of the celebrities, with no guarantee that their presence in the game has any effect on sales, and in fact, usually doesn't.
100% agree. That is a valid, fair, reasonable request. It's not a ton of money if the game does well, but it's something. Now, switching back to devil advocate mode for a second, we don't know if that's really what they asked for behind closed doors. They could have asked for a lot more. They may have told their union workers, hey, this is what we're going to ask for, but once those doors close, the negotiations get very aggressive and they're very hard to crack. And that's good. I mean, you want a union that can fight for you like that. What ends up happening though is that people are getting shafted who don't have a union, you know? I mean, that's a sad reality of it. If there's one thing that I want people to take away from this video is that these artists, these engineers, a lot of them are young, you know, under 30. They don't have the time, they don't have the protection, they don't have a union to fight for them. And to start one is insanely difficult. It's not just, oh, we'll make a union. It's hard, especially now. Especially that if Joe Schmo Coder or QA goes, I'm tired of working 12-hour days, I'm going on strike, the next day he's going to be replaced. Which is the whole point of unions. It's supposed to protect the worker from companies doing stuff like that. Stop them from replacing somebody who's cheaper. I've been replaced several times by cheaper workers. I did nothing wrong, I was doing a great job, they just didn't want to pay me what I wanted to be paid. So they hired someone cheaper. Again, free market, capitalism at its core. So unions came in, and unions were a great thing. Without unions, we'd be working 12-hour workdays, 7 days a week, in unsafe working conditions, no health care, no benefits, no time off. That's funny. That actually sounds like a lot of millennials. A lot of millennials who work as freelancers. They don't get health benefits. They don't get paid vacation. They don't get paid time off. They don't get maternity leave. It's almost like this thing is bigger than the voice actors union. And it is. This whole thing is so much, the scale of it is so much bigger. Voice actors have vocal stress. Yes, they don't get paid very much for 4-hour sessions. Yes, they don't get residuals, back pay bonuses like they do in the film and TV industry. But there's a whole section of workers, the artists, the coders, engineers, that get next to nothing. And that's just really sad. And I can see why people are upset about this, because they don't want it to just be about the voice actors. They want to improve their quality of work too. Who doesn't want to improve their quality of work? I guess the best way to do it is to start small. Who knows, maybe this strike that Steve and the voice actors are doing, #PerformanceMatters, will spark something in the industry. However, I've personally seen what happens when a strike doesn't work out in favor of its workers, and it's terrible. The animation industry, holy shit. Wow, I worked for the animation industry for a year, and the stories I've heard when the animators went on strike, I believe it was the late 80s, early 90s, and it's why now everything's done in Korea and there's a skeleton crew out here doing storyboards and writing. It's just so sad. So it can swing both ways. It can go a tremendously positive route and improve the lives of the voice actors and therefore spark like a revolution and improve the welfare of artists, engineers, coders, and get them benefits and healthcare and stop them from being laid off. At the end of a project, to give them protection. But on the swing side of things, this is just for union work. It's so easy to classify a game as non-union and hire non-union talent. The only reason you make a game union is if you really want someone to be on the staff that's union only, or will only take union work. I, for one, was never in a position, because I tried to join the editors union once, where I could turn down non-union work. Why would I turn down non-union work? It's work. I need money. I need work. Which leads to something even bigger. You'd be called a scab. People who are working right now as voice actors in Hollywood are scabbed. And SAG-AFTRA will note them, come after them, and prevent them from A, ever joining their Actors Guild, or B, ever working again after the strike works. And that sucks. The whole situation's dark. It's bad. Especially when it can go tremendously either way.
Now, at this point, the most ridiculous counter-demands were found to be illegal and pulled off the table, but the producers still want to be able to put non-union, non-professional people who happen to work at their companies into the booth to voice union projects.
Like I just said, deciding what's union and non-union is very slippery slope. It all depends. In film, it depends on the actors. The actors is what determines whether your shoot is union or not. I know it gets a bit it's a complicated thing, but from what I've read and from what I've seen based on my time in the industry, it's the actors that determine whether a thing is union, because you can have union actors and non-union crew. You can have union crew and non-union actors. And I'm pretty sure that the same thing can go with video games. You can have a union development studio and non-union voice actors come and say, oh, sorry, it's non-union.
Now, before I joined the union, I was never allowed that luxury, nor did I ever expect it. It's in direct violation with the most basic thing that makes it a union contract. Finally, I'd just like to say that my personal reason for working in this industry began as a simple desire to create. I never expected to become rich or famous. I'm certainly not the first, and reluctantly a bit of the latter. Once I got out into the world of conventions and spoke to the fans face to face, I realized that my primary purpose actually shifted. I realized that what we do matters to the end users. These games get people through some of the most difficult times in their lives. They help people heal from loss and pain. They create a sense of community worldwide for millions who may not have otherwise had friends or even feel self-worth. I simply want to help improve the conditions for the people providing this product and help to make it a safe, viable way to earn a living in this industry for the next generation. Now, as I said, most of these changes won't even affect me, but I know and care about hundreds who will be directly and deeply affected. I proudly stand in solidarity with my brothers and sisters in SAG-AFTRA, and I sincerely hope this comes to a quick, successful conclusion. Performance matters. Thanks for listening. Love, Steve.
I love the love Steve part. So take note of something he says. He knows hundreds of voice actors that could benefit. Well, that's great, but there are probably tens of thousands of voice actors that will not benefit. And that's too bad. But I guess it does matter. If it's gonna help some people, that's a good thing, right? I mean, what do you guys think? If it's only gonna help a couple hundred rather than, the tens of thousands, it's a step in the right direction, right? I mean, eventually, when they join the union. But then again, I'm skeptical, because I think in 2016, having someone who's a freelancer and at will doing contract work is just so much less stress for the business and so much easier for them to just write it off. I mean, they can fire you at any time, they don't have to pay your taxes, they don't have to give you benefits, they can overwork you, they can underwork you, they can do a bunch of bad stuff. So maybe it is a good step in the right direction. Maybe this will help the industry as a whole. Then again, it could hurt it as a whole as well. It's dangerous territory. I think that it is important to create. I'm an artist myself, and anybody else who's watching this who is an artist, who's worked in the gaming industry, you guys know how it is. I mean, you get paid to do it, and they say thanks, bye-bye, and then you're done. You don't see a dime for sales, you don't see a dime of stuff, and it happens on a regular basis, and it's terrible. But what do you guys think? I mean, I've kind of showed you both sides. I've rambled on way longer than I should have in this video. Are you an artist? How old are you? Are you a coder? Are you an engineer? Tell us about your work experience working as a freelancer or QA or an at-will employee or a contractor, and let us know how you were treated. Don't give away obviously the place you worked at, because I'm sure there's a bunch of legal ramifications for that, but just let us know. How you were treated. Are you for the voice actor strike? Are you against the voice actor strike? I am for 90% of what the voice actors are asking for. The majority of them I think are reasonable demands. And the other 10% I'm not for, only because I don't think it matters, because they're just going to hire non-union people to come in anyway, which is what they've done for years. It's happened to me, it's happened to other people I know. But we do need to do something. I'm not sure what. I don't think we can just all start a union and start demanding a bunch of stuff. But let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. For more videos like this and everything else gaming related, you're already in the right place. You're on Shacknews.com.